for this patient, and it was a very good learning curve for us. So it was Mrs. S. She was a 37-year-old lady who was referred from CMC Chittor with complaints of high-grade fever and vomiting one episode. With which she had this complaint she had presented to Chittor. She was admitted in Chittor as acute febrile illness. Workup was done. She was empirically started on Piptas and Doxy. Among the workup, her scrub typhus had come positive, and she was on started on Doxy. With Doxy, she had started shown improvement. She was became afebrile, and she remained afebrile for another 1 to 2 days. By day fifth of admission, which was day eighth of total illness, she now started had another fever spike, went into urinary retention. They thought of a probable hospital-acquired infection bar another UTI. A meropenem was added. Following day, she started also complaining of this dull aching lower backache and also mild difficulty in swallowing. By following day, she started having this acute flaccid paralysis, which started in the lower limbs, then gradually progressed on to the upper limbs. There also was loss of sensations and areflexia, which got completed to 0 by 5 in the next 48 hours. There was also the difficulty in swallowing worsened, and also she started was noticed to have a nasal twang, poor cough, and drooling of saliva. CSF was done, which showed a WBC count of 81 with lymphocytic predominance. In view of this, she was also started on ATT, and she was planned for referred to CMC. But prior to refer, she also started having this breathing difficulty, and in view of shallow breathing, she was intubated prior to sending to CMC. So when she had presented to CMC, she was intubated. Her vitals were stable, and she was noted to have a scar in the left lower back. Other systemic examination was normal. CNS examination, her at presentation was E2 to 3 M1 and VT. Pupils were reactive, and bilateral seventh low motor facial palsy was noted. She was power was 0 by 5 in all four limbs. DTRs were absent, plantars were mute. No signs of meningeal irritation were seen. So our clinical syndrome we had was of a febrile illness with an acute meningoencephalitis with a myelitis bar polyneuropathy. Myelitis also we are thinking in terms of a ascending myelitis because it started from the lower limb. So that's why that was our main working diagnosis. This patient was for this clinical syndrome, the initial differentials we had considered more of an infective initially. For as we scrub, leptomalaria and other rickettsial illnesses, West Nile, Japanese encephalitis, CMV, EBV, and or TB meningitis with extensive arachnoiditis, or a para-infectious demyelination like acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, AIDP, or CNS lupus autoimmune encephalitis were considered. Other consideration was of because of the myelitis, whether it's MS, NMO was considered. Paraneoplastic and CNS vasculitis were also kept lower down. So this initial for the evaluation, patient was shifted to ICU directly, where she was being managed. This was the reports which was from her Chitu lab, where she was found to have this microcytic anemia with elevated counts. Her initial renal and liver parameter did not show any much derangement, and her scrub was positive. This was this second following fever episodes of Vidal, CRP, and CSF, which was done, had shown these parameters. Chest X-ray was clear. So when she came to CMC, she still persisted to have a leukocytosis and with a mild AG reversal which was seen on LFT, but her previous LFT was normal, so this was probably a negative phase reactant which had caused it. So because in our initial working development, because of acute flaccid paralysis, we urgently got an EMG NCV done, which came out to be normal. Repeat CSF was also done, which showed a WBC count of 20. Corrected was coming as 11. Her glucose and protein were also in the normal range. Her all cultures, bacterial and bacterial, TB expert, fungal, everything, all cultures were negative. Viral PCR, Japanese encephalitis, cryptococcal were negatives. We also, in that time, cytospin was in because of a paraneoplastic differential, which came negative for abnormal cells. Her other, because she had now persistent fever spikes, other AFI workups like wheal Felix, water fever, leptomalarial smells were negative. ANA, blood cultures, everything was coming as negative. Bone marrow was also done because of a differential of a probable TB and with an anemia noted. So bone marrow was done, which came out as negative. She was planned for an urgent MRI, and MRI which was done. MRI showed a patchy diffusion restriction with T2 flare hyperintensities, which was noted in the left splenium corpus callosum. She was also noted to found in the middle cerebral peduncle, pons medulla, and also in the a long stretch involving from the brainstem till the conus was noted in the MRI. These T2 hyperintensities. So we we now had a working diagnosis of a more of a acute onset encephalomyelitis. So our differential first came priority was of a ADEM, just para-infectious, as we know, or can be post-infectious or post-vaccination. Other infective encephalomyelitis, we have already worked up for other infective causes which had come negative. Scrub was still a consideration because she was already having a, eschar, IgM was positive, and she was getting treatment for it. Other, we also ruled out other causes for encephalomyelitis, brucella, syphilis, this porphyrin, everything was negative. Our for this long segment encephalomyelitis, NMO was considered, but this report is awaited. MS was considered unlikely because it's a involvement of more than 3 cord segment was there, but still we have sent for a workup for it with the oligoclonal bands, which is still awaited. So among this now, two main consideration was either it's a ADM, which was either para-infectious bar post-infectious to scrub, or it was a scrub encephalomyelitis. So this is was the confusion, and this was our the thing which I would like to talk about. And other thing which I would like to talk about is the some differentiating points between the long segment encephalomyelitis. So the first point, this thing is why this was a confusion was because this patient had a scrub, and then following with just there was a transient improvement, and he had all of these fever spikes with this weakness. So it was whether it's a scrub causing a encephalomyelitis was a consideration, or whether it was a ADEM, which means it's a para or post-infectious triggering an immune response, which was causing it. As we know, scrub has a has documented multiple neurological manifestations, which are mainly through focal or disseminated vasculitis or perivasculitis, whereas ADM it's more of a T cell mediated autoimmune response to myelin basic protein. It can be acute or subacute. Average days of 4 to 21 days, but this 4 to 21 days is mainly associated for a para-infectious or a post-infectious time period. For a post-vaccination, mostly more commonly related to measles, rubella, and all, they can be have a very longer time period also. This ADM, it's not a new entity. It's been diagnosed for more than 150 years, which earlier documentation post smallpox vaccine also. The incidence, we don't have any Indian data, but the current data from the Western is 0.4 to 0.8 per 1 lakh population. Or this entity is more common in children. So but it has also been now been recognized in more and more in adults also. There is no criteria or for being made specifically for adults, but the one which is being followed for adult population is also the International Pediatric Multiple Sclerosis Study Group, which was a 2012 criteria, which
Sandesh, you have 1 minute, so you can work towards wrapping up your presentation.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So it's ADM basically can be is almost 85 to 90% cases are monophasic, means just a one episode. Other cases can be recurrent or multiphasic. The difference between recurrent and multiphasic is multiphasic means the recurrent lesion will be happening in the second time the lesions will be happening in a new place. Recurrent means it will happening in the same place, but usually it also means recurrent will happening after more than 1 month of treatment completion. There is no gender predominance, though some studies have said a slightly male predominance, and there is a complete recovery in this cases. With treatment, it's in 50 to 50, around 50%, mortality of 10 to 30%. There have been multiple case reports with similar manifestations with scrub, with who are presented with initial fever and then neurological manifestations, who were initially treated with multiple this antibiotics, and then finally with steroids had shown improvement. These were the lower one was a case report of 10 patients, out of which there was one from India. The treatment is mainly from IV methylprednisolone and IVIG. In this,
Sanesh, the time is over. Can you just go to your last slide?
So in this patient, in the what happened is the patient was treated along completed ATT and DEXA was continued. Azithro was also given. We prefer to give IVIG because of the fever spikes which the patient was having. And following this, the patient started improving, started falling. Though there was no motor improvement, there was a patient started falling objects with eye improvement was there. But with the improvement, there was a patient started having fever spike, had a hospital acquired probable pneumonia, and also had a hypoxic cardiac arrest. Following which, he had a probable hypoxic ischemic injury. Poor prognosis was explained, and the family members wanted discharge and withdrawal of supports. So we had a final diagnosis of parainfectious encephalomyelitis, probable ADM because we have not ruled out NMO yet. Scrub typhus infection, ventilator-associated pneumonia, and hypoxic cardiac arrest. So the main thing which I wanted to focus is scrub encephalomyelitis and acute disseminated encephalomyelitis actually has the same pattern with this. It's very difficult to differentiate. And the second thing which I was not able to cover was the differences between the different demyelinating LETM. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanish, for your presentation. Dr. Amit, would you like to add anything?
So this gentleman, this lady, she was given a scrub, and then the entire other things which was there, which was suggestive of disseminated encephalomyelitis, and she was fulfilling the criteria for disseminated encephalomyelitis. For treatment wise, we have immunomodulation, either methylprednisolone or IVIG. Studies have shown actually methylprednisolone is better than IVIG. For this lady, we could not because she had a new onset of ongoing fever and she developed VAP in our ICU. So she was given a trial of IVIG, which she showed a significant improvement in her sensorium. However, uh, in ICU, she had a probable tube block and she had a hypoxic injury and she had a cardiac arrest. So the only thing that this lady had a scrub and scrub associated diffuse encephalomyelitis, which is quite rare in scrub CNS presentation.
Thank you, Amit. Would anybody else like to ask any questions or add anything? Okay. If not, shall we go on to the next presentation? Renju from Medicine 3 will be presenting Candid or Not.